For this project, you are going to need some way to lift up the car. In my case, I am using a floor jack plus 2 jack stands. I'm also using some wheel chocks to chalk off the rear wheels as I'm not working on a level surface. I've also got a torque wrench. It needs to go up to 30 pounds-feet of torque. You also need a breaker bar, and then you will need a ratchet set as well. And for your ratchet set, you're going to need specifically a 10mm socket, a 24mm socket, and a 22mm socket. For the sockets, the 24mm is for the fill plug, and for the drain plug, it is a 22mm socket. Now, just so you're aware, I do recommend getting a 6-point socket specifically, as I did find a 12.1 would slip, and of course, you don't want to strip your bolts as well. And the drain plug specifically does not have a lot of space, so I do recommend a shallow socket. You are also going to need your wheel locks to get your wheels off, a set of trim tools to get out a bunch of clips, and some spare clips would also be helpful as well. You're going to need your transmission fluid, specifically Toyota Genuine Manual Transmission Gear Oil LV or API GL4 and SAE 75W. In my specific case, I'm using the Redline MT-LV for this, and you're going to need 1.5 liters or 1.6 US quarts or 1.3 imperial quarts. You'll also need 2 of these gaskets, one for the fill plug and one for the drain plug. They are the exact same. You'll also need some sort of pump as well to pump in the fluid into the transmission. And lastly, you'll need a set of gloves, although that'll be optional if you don't care for the amount of mess you're going to make. Paper towels will also be helpful, but the drain pan you're definitely going to need to catch your fluid. I also have this piece of cardboard underneath the drain pan in order to help prevent spills on the floor. Before lifting up the car, I recommend loosening the bolts of your front driver's side wheel. You can also do this in the air if you have electric tools, but if you're just using hand tools like me, I recommend doing this on the ground first. You're going to need to make your car level. So if you're working on a level surface, all you need to do is lift up the car. I'm not working on a level surface, so what I'm going to do is chalk off the rear wheels, and then I'm going to lift up both ends of the front of the car. Now, in my case, my driveway is sloping down, so I'm lifting the car up enough so it seems as though the car is level. And I'm doing this from a front to back and a left to right as well, just to make sure it's level in both directions. Next, remove the driver's side wheel completely and put it to a side. We're going to go underneath the car and remove the underbody panel. Now, if you've not done this before, it's a series of 4 bolts that are all 10mm and a series of 10 clips, all that will need to be removed with your trim tools. I recommend going around and getting the clips first and then coming back for the bolts at the very end. Once you've gotten everything off, put your underbody panel to a side and then come back around to the driver's side front wheel. And you'll see over here, there's 3 clips specifically that we need to remove. So get your trim tools again and remove these 3 clips. And you'll see here I actually broke one, so I had to poke one of the clips through all the way in order to get it out. And of course, this is why you have extra clips, just in case. Then come around to the underside of the car, and there is one more clip over here towards the rear, and one more 10mm bolt towards the front of the car. Once you've gotten all of these clips and all these bolts out, you can then remove that side piece. And this gives us access to the side of the transmission where we can see the fill plug and the drain plug. So before we do anything, I'm going to slide the drain pan underneath the fill plug, as well with my cardboard to prevent any spills on the floor. And as is good practice, you should always remove the fill plug first. If you drain all the fluid and you can't fill it, then what are you going to do at that point, right? So I did have to use the breaker bar and the 24mm socket to get this plug off. And you can see here, when I do take it off, there is no fluid coming out. So we know that we're not uneven or it wasn't overfilled. Now I'm going to put the fill plug back just so I don't lose it. And then I'm going to go over to the drain plug. And once again, you don't have a lot of space, so that having that shallow socket is very useful. And I'm going to take my breaker bar and break that bolt loose. And where you'll see that once I do remove the drain bolt, the fluid is not coming out fast. So in order to get that fluid out faster, undo your fill bolt and you'll see how fast that fluid flows out. Once your fluid has drained out completely, take your drain plug and replace the gasket with one of the new ones. Make sure you thread it back in place by hand first, and then tighten it up completely with a ratchet. And your torque specs for this one is 29 foot-pounds. Now we're going to fill the transmission back up with 1.5 liters of fluid. So get your favorite fluid of choice, undo the cap, and feed in the suction part of the pump into one end. And then, of course, put the other end of the tube into the transmission. This may be a little finicky, so having an extra person to help would absolutely be useful. Now, just begin pumping in the fluid into your transmission, and of course, make sure that your suction end is all the way into the bottom of your transmission fluid container, and then the other end of the tube is all the way inside, snug in the transmission, and continue to pump until you run into a ton of air bubbles, at which point you're going to have to transition your pump into the next fluid bottle, and then continue going until half of that bottle is done. Now, you'll know when you're done when the transmission fluid starts leaking out of the drain plug. As per Toyota, you need to add manual transmission fluid until the level is between 0 and 5 millimeters from the bottom lip of the manual transmission filler plug opening. So as soon as you start seeing fluid coming out, leave it and then let the fluid drip out until it's fully level, at which point you can then put your fill plug back in. Now, before you put your fill plug back in, obviously, make sure that you take the old gasket out and put the new gasket back in its place. And then, of course, tighten this bolt to 29 foot-pounds as well. I'm going to use my favorite empty container of choice and my favorite funnel of choice and put in the disposed manual transmission fluid into this container. Now, you can recycle this at your local recycling facility, local hazardous waste disposal facility, or a local auto parts store. I don't know which part of the world you live in, so check with your municipalities, your local stores, to see how you can safely dispose of your discarded fluid. Now we're going to take the side trim panel piece and put it back over here and slide it back into place. I find that working from the bottom is easier, so what you should do is first replace that 10 millimeter bolt first, and then you're going to come around to the side of the car and put these three plastic clips back into place. To reinstall your underbody panel, what I recommend is taking the panel and sliding it towards the front of the car and reinstalling those 4 10 millimeter bolts. Then you can go around and put in the 10 clips back into place. And of course, if you had any broken clips, replace those as well. Then come back in and install your wheel. You don't have to torque it down just yet. We're first going to lower the car back down to the ground, of course, on both sides. And then we're going to torque the wheels back into place. Then, of course, remove your rear wheel chocks as well, and you're done. You've replaced your transmission fluid.